What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am so excited to welcome our next guest, Jenay DeCaussin. She is the 2023 Tactical Games National Champion, and we are just about back at Nationals. I can't believe it's already been a calendar year. Jenay, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome, thanks. It is crazy how fast time flies by. It literally feels like it was 2 months ago, the last nationals, so that's wild.
Does it feel like one calendar year is enough time between all of the regional events that you're doing and, getting training in? Do you feel like it's enough time to work on specific weaknesses and really be able to showcase how much better you've gotten at specific things?
Yeah, it's definitely enough time, although, I would say in different sports where there's, like, a lead up in one pinnacle games, like CrossFit Games, right? And then you have, like, regionals and stuff. It's a little bit more condensed, whereas our regionals
Mhm.
are so spread out across the year, that I think the first one last year was in February in Florida that I did. So I competed with, like, the games, the final event on November in November. And then, 3 months later, I'm already prepping for my next event. And I was like, dang, that off season was short. And I think in our sport, you just kind of have to know where you're at in your training season. And if you're going to compete early on, just know that you're not showing up you're in your national shape. So in the earlier ones, maybe I'm not showing up my 100%, but I'm there to train, not to win nationals, which is the ultimate goal, if that makes sense. So,
Mhm.
you just mentally have to approach things differently in our sport, I think, given that it's such a long season. And it is by choice too. I chose to compete in February. I didn't have to, right? But I do like to kind of spread things out so that you can go compete, see what worked and see what didn't, and then have some time before the next one to refine that and then repeat the process. And as long as you're mentally approaching each competition like it's training in the earlier part of the season and still focused on nationals, I think it's totally doable that way and will lead you to the best you at the end. But yeah, we certainly have a long season in tactical games. It's a lot.
It's so interesting because I feel like the niche sports like CrossFit, like tactical games, like high rock, some of these other fitness sports, there really is such a small condensed season. What I love about tactical games though is right now we are recording what is it? Almost the end of October, and we already have the entire 2025 schedule. When you're looking ahead even for next year, you talk about getting a competition in early and spreading them out. Is there a specific system that you look at for deciding which ones you'll do? Is it location? Is it, every 3 months you want to compete, or what's the mindset behind that?
For me, it is heavily location based right now with where I'm at with things. I think it can be quite hard to travel with the tactical game on cost of the sport itself. Let's be honest, is quite expensive. Entrance fees, ammo, gear. Which once you get the gear, you got it, right? But still, training for that has ammo costs, and then you add on a travel expense of flights, Airbnb, um, food while you're there, rental car. Like the further you go, it's almost like the more it could cost depending on the area and how expensive the flights are and living expenses there. So for me, I'll look at the location first and make sure that it's reasonable. And then if I have options that I can choose from that all the locations will work, then I'll base it on time frame. Like this would work. I don't want to do two right back to back. I might rather like have a couple months between if I can have that choice. But for where I'm at right now, I prefer to drive places and to keep it as cheap as I can keep it. So the location then plays a great deal. Also, I really enjoy doing the team events to break up the season.
Mm.
So for those that like don't know the tactical game structure as much, we usually have a handful of individual focused events and then two team events. And you can do teams at the regular matches, but it's not the main focus. Whereas a team event, the programming is designed around teams, and the majority of the people there are doing teams, right? So for us, like, we have nationals as an individual, maybe you have a couple qualifiers as an individual. It is so much more fun to break up the season for me and do a couple of team matches. And then I get a chance to really focus on community at those events and building relationships instead of always being so blinders on, like laser focused on what I'm doing in my performance, which allows me, I think, to get a little bit fuller of an experience in tactical games as a whole. Um, and the team events are just a lot of fun. I did one with Blair last year, and we got to connect a lot more as friends, and that was so cool. And we still keep up with that. Like, I still text her often, and like that's a relationship I wouldn't have grown in if we didn't do team together. And then I've done some with Jake as well, which was a good relationship builder for us. So it's definitely fun to mix in not just location and time, but also, do I want to do a team one as well?
There's so many things that I want to dive into there, but let's go back. Actually, let's first talk about Jake. You recently were engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, he proposed after the Utah event. So fun.
Did you have any idea that it was going to happen?
Well, kind of. Like, we had definitely talked about, like, we both knew that we were at a point in our relationship that this is a step we wanted to take. Um, and I thought that he wasn't going to have the ring in time to do it over the Utah trip, because we had planned to go on a little vacation to like see Moab and Pagosa Springs on the way home, which we never do post tactical games. We're always like, we got to get back. I got a coach. He's got to work. Like, it's a come and go, like never go and see anything. So this is the first one that we were like going to go and do some stuff after. And I didn't think the ring would be ready. So I wasn't like really sure that he would do it on that trip. But I feel like when you really know someone, you can kind of smell it on him, like he has a hard time like lying.
Oh, what were some of the signs that like you're like, you're up to something?
Yeah, like, so we were doing a photo shoot for his company out in Moab, and Volcon, the bikes that you see in tactical games too.
Oh, so much fun. We love
It was
those.
so beautiful. I love my brat. It's awesome. And we have an Evo too. But anyways, we were doing a photo shoot for them, and it had wrapped up early. So the scene was beautiful. Like, we had a photographer there already, and you could just see that he was getting nervous. And he was like starting to say, sorry, there's a bug there. Starting to say different things. And I was like, wait, you're not really making sense right now. And then I was like, oh, he's totally gonna do it right now. So I pieced it together in the moment. But leading into that day, I did not know. He definitely did an amazing job in making that moment super special for us. So I was really thankful that like we had such a beautiful spot, and mainly like between him and I, it was just a really special moment that we got to enjoy for a couple of days on our vacation too afterwards. So, yeah.
The pictures, if you guys are listening to this or watching this, go to Jenay's Instagram. I'll put it in the description. And some of the most spectacular pictures, if you're looking to propose to your significant other, or you have a significant other and you want to be proposed to, this is a beautiful location to do so. Are you training for Tactical Games Nationals right now while you're also planning a wedding, or what is the balance right now?
Oh yeah. So Jake and I are actually trying to get married a little bit faster than I would say modern society would approach a wedding. Like, usually it's like a year later. And Jake and I decided that we wanted to get married on December 7th of this year. So that's really fast. And it aligns with, like, I mean, we've chosen that this is what we want for each other. And it's been very hard to like honor certain commitments that we had made to each other, to reserve certain things for marriage, and just like honor that, like, I'm not married to Jake yet and he's not married to me. And like, there are certain things that we will step into when we're married. So holding those boundaries now that we're engaged is like even harder. And also I feel like is the most godly thing we could do is to get married sooner rather than later, in our situation. And we've been dating for 2 years. So like, this isn't an on the whim, we just started dating and we're getting married right away. Like, I know who he is, he knows me. And we're trying to approach it a little quicker. So we're doing a very like small, intimate wedding here in Texas. It's actually like 15 minutes up the road from us at a piece of property that we're gonna have some family and friends out to, and just keep it really simple. And although simple, I will say planning a wedding is a lot more stressful than I thought it would be. Just to keep that short.
Do you have a dress?
I do, yeah. as of yesterday. So that's exciting. But that,
You
and
have
then
your dress and you have your fiance. That's really, and you need a couple people there. You're good.
yep, that's what everyone tells me. They're like, people have really encouraged me, and I've definitely felt this, that like the richness of it will be felt in the covenant that we make to each other and the people that are there to celebrate that and witness it for us, and be there with us. And I think I really wanted to lean into that being the focal point and why it's amazing, instead of trying to like shell out a lot of money on a lot of things that will come and go for us. And like, just quite frankly, like we don't have endless money to go and spend on a big wedding right now with where we're at in life. And I think starting our marriage off on a note of like simplicity and just being like really richly bonded, and like I think that will be better for us than trying to wait longer and have a more extravagant day. So that's
You
where we're at
rather
with
use those
it.
finances for tactical games
Yeah, let's be honest.
to
Okay,
compete
so in
more.
summary, I have ammo to pay for it, and I can't pay for it. Kind of kidding,
I
kind
love
of.
it. It's about the things that we prioritize.
Yeah. Oh, for
Well,
sure.
congratulations. I'm so happy for you and Jake, both lovely people. I love when you guys come out to events and we get to catch up, and I can't wait to see all the beautiful pictures because I'm sure it's going to be spectacular. But
Thanks.
let's now get into, how did you even initially find tactical games? Because you have a background in hockey and CrossFit. That's where I really knew you from, was the CrossFit space. But as
Mhm.
you stepped more out of the CrossFit space, where did you first see tactical games?
Yeah, so I was at training at CrossFit Mayhem at the time. I had coached there and had the privilege of like just being in that community for a while. It was so great. And I had a lot of friends that were military LEO, and a couple of close friends had saw me working out at the gym. I was training like I was going to the CrossFit Games, although I was not at the level of going to the CrossFit Games, I would say. Um, so I felt like, in short, I was beating my head against the wall and really didn't have a good reason to be doing that. But I knew that
Mhm.
I had a lot of drive and passion. I just didn't know what the thing was that I needed to channel it into, where it would be conducive to my strengths as an athlete. Like, my strengths as an athlete were not enough in the CrossFit space to be exceptional CrossFit Games athlete. Like, I was fit for sure, but like it just wasn't for me. So my friends, knowing who I was, and they had done tactical games already, they invited me and said, "Hey, I think that you would love this. You would be great at it. Let us help you out, and we'll get you set up, and you can go try one. And then if you like it, you can keep the ball rolling." So out of just pure incredible generosity, they lent me equipment and taught me how to be safe, like basics,
Mhm.
so that I can go and compete and try one. And the second that I got out there and tried it, I got my butt handed to me. It was perfect. It was like this event in Ohio in 22, and all the best girls were there. Some familiar names that you know now: Blair was there, Kalarina, Megan Kennedy, Tristan at the time, who is a national champion.
Mhm.
There are a handful more, but like I specifically remember those girls because I was next to them or like following them. So I was watching them and I was like, oh my gosh, these ladies are incredible. And they just absolutely
So your
smacked.
first one, you signed up for the elite division?
Yes, I did. Because
What a baddie.
one, I'm a little bit stubborn. Two, they said that the shooting is the same across all divisions. And I was like, well, I want to
That's true.
compete in elite. And I was like, I want to win against elite. So even if I go get dead last in elite, I'm going. And I probably will get dead last, but then at least I know where I stack up and where I need to need to improve on. So I gained a great deal of respect for my fellow competitors showing up to that, and was just like blown away by how incredible they were at their craft. And I was like, I really want to do this. This feels like it for me. So after I lent equipment and stuff, then I started investing in some of my own, but it took time. I was still borrowing equipment up until like last year. Um, Maybe, I mean, technically even now I'm still kind of borrowing a couple of things, but basically I started out with just buying my own pistol. That was super easy, could get my own stuff, and then I could start dry firing and stuff like that. I borrowed a rifle for Nationals 22, which was actually Jake's rifle, which is how we met. really, and like became friends.
Oh, it's so poetic.
Yeah. So he reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, I see you're not signed up for nationals. This is in 2022." And he's like, "What's up? Like, why aren't you coming? You did, you qualified at Ohio because all the other girls were really good and had already qualified. So my 8th place finish was enough to qualify for nationals." So
However you get there, it still
yeah,
counts.
count it. I got the invite. So I was like, "Yeah, I don't have a rifle, so I can't compete." I wasn't going to ask my friends to borrow their stuff anymore. So I was like, I need to just like spend some time trying to put some money together for that. And he was like, I think you should come compete, borrow my rifle. So I came out and did it, and borrowed his rifle into the following year until I was able to win some of my own stuff. And then once I won my own rifle and like some scopes and stuff, I was able to like win myself a setup. It was funny. In the next year, I literally was going to matches like, I have to win this or I can't shoot anymore because I don't have a rifle. Which Jake would have let me keep it however long I wanted. But I just felt bad, where I was like, I need to give this back to him and win my own. So there's some power in having little to nothing and like kind of having your back against the wall, and you got to fight for it and you got to earn it. It lets some fire underneath your butt, I think. So yeah.
I mean, what a cool way to just fully dive into the sport. And you even recently, I think yesterday, put up an Instagram post with a screenshot of some notes that you had written for yourself before your first nationals. And it was essentially the message was, it doesn't matter if you don't feel like you're ready, do it anyways. Have you always had that mindset, or is that something that you've had to develop over the years with all of the sports you've been doing, or where does it come from?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a God-given thing, the drive that's in me to like be competitive. And then also it was very much fostered with the time I spent playing hockey. I grew up playing boys hockey at first, and then when I moved on to like high school level and college, I played girls hockey. But those years that I started off with the boys, I mean, there's not really room to be soft about things. There's not room to be hesitant, or else you're out or you're getting hurt, really. So it developed a lot of drive in me. And I think my mom always told me too, she was like, you can do anything that you want to do if you set your mind to it. And that sounds so simple, but she always encouraged me in that like anything that I wanted to do, if I worked hard and set my mind to it, I could do it. And I've always carried that with me of like, if this is what I want to do, then even if I'm dead last, like I can work hard and get to where I want to be in it. So I do think it's both like just a thing that's in me, as well as something that my sports and my family has like helped me develop as well. But yeah, I mean, I almost never feel ready for anything, but I have to remind myself that even if I was really ready, I'm so critical of myself and competitive, not in an unhealthy way, but you're always pushing your boundaries as an athlete, as a competitor. Um, and like, I'm never going to be satisfied with where I'm at. I'm always going to strive for more. So there are times where I just have to step into it. And I think it's good in training to have that mindset. But the minute that you go into competition, the thing that I found most helpful is to let all of that go and just step into confidence at that moment. Because what else can you do? Like, you're either going to hold on to that fear and that doubt and it's going to cripple you, or you're going to set yourself free of that and you're going to compete to your best potential. And at the end of the day, like whatever you have on game day is what you've got. So my worry or my fear isn't going to help me get any better on that day. Like, what am I going to miraculously, like, I don't know, be able to lift 50 more pounds on my deadlift or something overnight? Like, it's just, I got to be confident in what I've got and be like, all right, this is what I'm rocking today. And no, it's not. Back then, it was like, I don't even know what tactical people wear. I don't have expensive gear. I was like, I'm rocking the cheapest Glock in the business right now, but
Yeah.
I can shoot it. And like, this is really fun. And with that, it's like my max potential maybe was here back then. And I was doing my best to meet it right where it was. And nothing more than that, right? And even now going into this year, maybe I'm a little bit higher. But on that day of competition, I'm not going to try to ask myself to do more than that if that's where I'm at right now, right? It's like I just got to try to do that, which is exactly what I've been doing in training all the time, and not expect more of myself on that day. It's like that's where, for me, when I'm expecting more of myself, that's where I get fear and like self doubt and stuff like that, because I've never done that before. So if you do training, like if you're training a certain way and then you show up to competition and you're like, all right, I just got to do what I've been doing in training, period. Just got to do me. And for me, that produces the best results.
But I think that's such a powerful message, because whether it's sport, whether it's a job, whether it's something that we're just scared to do or we don't feel totally ready, if we just only started things when we were ready, people would never do anything. We would all just sit back in fear. So I think it shows so much maturity and confidence to be able to push forward and identify that, hey, this isn't going to be perfect, but I know that I'm going to go into this and I'm going to do my best. And if anything, it's just going to give you more data points. And the phrase fake it till you make it, I mean, that rings
Yeah.
true with so many things. It's like, yeah, you're not entirely faking it because you are going to prepare as best you can, but you're not going to be an expert the moment that you take the floor or enter nationals or a competition when you're a beginner.
Right. 100%. And it was so funny. You're just reminding me of this. I think gratitude also helps me in those moments. Just be like, hey, man, this is like awesome that we just get to do this. So, like, instead of freaking out right now, let's kind of enjoy the moment. I was at the range today shooting, and Jared was with me. We train together pretty often these days. And I was just sitting there, like, loading magazines, and I was like, this is kind of freaking awesome. This is really fun. We just get to go out here and shoot guns. And, like, we're going to get to do fitness and shoot guns. Like, what kind of sport, is like this? There's not anything like this. It's fun.
None.
For me, at least. I think it's incredible. And I just had a moment where I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. This is a good time. And those moments within competition are fleeting. Like, it's this passing 2 seconds of gratitude that just brings you back down a little bit to earth, because you can get a little in your head. You're like, oh my God, this is like the most important thing in the world. I got to do this or my life is over. And I'm so nervous about this. And if I don't perform, I suck. And you just need that like 2 second, like, hey man, this is like really cool that you get to do this. Like, take a moment to relax and just go do what you can do and have a great time. And this sport in general has just been so much fun in a way that I haven't found with anything else. And the community makes it a big part of that for sure, because it's like, it's intimate, it's close, we know each other. You see people, you get to cheer for them when you see them do good things, and you're like, I know that person, like I've seen them for the past 2 years get to this point. So it's super cool. And I think, yeah, just those moments of gratitude help keep you mentally in check a little bit as well.
Tapping into the culture around tactical games, because that was something that I realized right off the bat when I jumped into the community, was how community driven it is. And when it comes to the way the format is, athletes judge each other. Athletes are giving each other advice. It's if somebody's pistol breaks in the middle of a competition, you have 5 people lining up to give you their pistol off of their hip. It really is this interesting dynamic of being competitive, but also being very community focused. And I don't know how you grew up, but for me, I feel like with sports and athletics, I was taught to be competitive, and these are your competitors, and you don't share little tidbits with them. Like, you need to have the competitive edge. And some of those things I've almost had to like unwork out of my mindset when it comes to these things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as somebody else who, comes from a hockey background, a CrossFit background, where sometimes you do keep things in your pocket to have that competitive edge, what has the shift in this ecosystem been like for you when it isn't really like that?
Yeah, I would totally agree with you where it was a change of pace for me. Not something I knew existed in sport in that way. And I was just thinking about the dynamics of team sport when you're growing up, like hockey, for my example, is very separated. Like, you come to the rink and you don't see the other team, you don't interact with the other team, you step onto the ice and you guys are enemies and you burn it down, and then you get off and you go your separate ways. And the most interaction that is friendly that you have is the fist bump at the end. Like, that's it. Whereas in tactical
You have
games,
to do
and you have to do it.
otherwise you're a jerk.
Yeah. With tactical games, I think the essence of, like you said, having athlete judges and forcing us to really interact with one another changes the game a lot. And also, like, the community is small enough that you see repeat faces. Like, you know your people that are there if you continue to keep showing up. So I think it's a lot harder to be so competitive that you can't be also friends and like help one another. It's harder to do that when you're such in an intimate environment. Like, even when you're waiting for a long range or waiting to start a next stage, like, you guys are just standing next to each other. Like, it's kind of hard to like be. I don't know. You can come across like a really big jerk.
Silent and awkward.
You're silent all the time, and there's a place for it. Don't get me wrong. I'll get to that, but like the way
Absolutely.
that we have a lot of time to spend with each other, I think really helps that. Even in between events, when you're going back to your car, if you're parked next to people, you're going to be close to one another. Then a couple other things. One, I think our community is a little bit older in age group generally.
Hmm.
So in sport, like even CrossFit, there's a lot of younger athletes that lack worldview and lack experience that maybe makes the older generation. I say older, I'm part of it. Like, I'm with y'all. Not like we're all old, but like, I
All
don't
of
know.
us masters
Yeah,
athletes.
all those old masters athletes with hurt knees.
We are mature professionals.
Yeah, like, I think a lot of people have real jobs and, a lot of different
Yeah.
worldview that allows us to be like to remember that this is just a game. Whereas with CrossFit, I've noticed, in, like, some of my younger years in sport, the worldview is just not there, and sport is everything. That's your identity, it's your life, and in that way, it can cause you to be an unhealthy amount of competitive in that state and not be able to turn it off. The key to tactical games for me is learning how to balance when I turn it on and when I turn it off, because I do want to have that competitive nature. I have a lot of ferocity in me. Like, I was made that
Mhm.
way, and I love that about competition. Like, that's like one of the best parts is that we get to go be fierce, and it's totally fine. Like, it's appropriate there. Go be a
Yeah.
savage. At 3, 2, 1, go. Be a savage. Um, and that, to me, that means I'm going to work really hard to outcompete my competitors. That's it. That's what that means to me. And I can go dark a little bit. Um, and I have to know that when the 3, 2, 1 go, we do the workout. When that ends, that I have to be able to flip that off. Because at the end of the day, like, a lot of these people out here are my friends. And I want them to do well next to me. But like, to me, it's most fun if they go hard in the paint next to me. Like I told you, Blair and I are good friends, right? So like, I want her to do well. We competed in Utah. Where were we just at? Utah together.
The
Yeah,
last
with the
one.
movers.
Yep, Utah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Utah. It's like we're competing literally next to each other the whole weekend. Like, we were like bouncing back between first and second with each other. I want her to show up her best on game day because that's more fun for each of us because we can push each other more and be great competitors together. And I'm just using her as an example here. It literally is true to any of the other girls on the line. Like, it is more fun and we will all be better if we're competitive on that line. So yes, we're gonna be friends off the field, but I am all for like 3, 2, 1, go. We're not friends right now. Like, I'm trying to win. I'm trying to beat you. And I love you when we get done.
But I love
um,
that, and that's such a healthy balance of being able to be a competitor and being a dog when you're in the fight, but coming off and still being able to have that friendly banter and community. I'm curious because the way that tactical games is formatted right now is when people win, you alluded to it before, is you win a lot of prizes from the sponsor. So you've been able to win a Staccato or a Sig or a Glock or whoever some of the main sponsors are, which
Mhm.
arguably is thousands of dollars of gear. But do you think that when and if tactical games change to prize purses with money, that competitive mindset would shift? Or do you think that the sport would be able to hold on to that competitive community? That's what I'll call it, because I don't know how
Yeah.
else to explain it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I can see how the tendency would trend more towards ruining the good community that we have right now if it was a higher prize purse. But at the same, I could see how it could happen, is what I'm saying. But
Mhm.
I think that it's possible and not. Um, like the people that are in tactical games community right now, I don't think would have a problem with it if it was like prize purses and stuff like that. I think what all of us care about is that it's fair. So as long as the competition is fair, at the end of the day, it's, you know, scoring's fair, all of that. Then if you won, rock on. Like, I'm still gonna be mega happy for Blair if she beats me in Utah, if she wins 10K and I didn't, and it was a fair fight, like she just won. Then right on. I think it could maybe bring some people in that maybe like the dynamic would change over time. Whereas like our
Sure.
community grew and the makeup of our community changed, then it would maybe go from a grassroots thing to coming in with that competitive mindset of like, I'm just here to make dollars and that's it. You know, instead of also enjoy the community. So I could see how it
Yeah.
could trend that way, but I think we could do it where we would have a prize purse and that wouldn't happen.
When we look at your athletic background, you said that you used to play all boys hockey. Were you the only female on the team?
I had one friend that was a girl that played on a couple of teams with me. So we were like the only two girls on the team, and that was it for ice hockey. And then I played roller hockey, and we'd play a ton of street hockey too with my brother and his friends. I have an older brother who's 2 or 3 years older than me, and so I was often the only girl in the circle, but not always the only girl in the circle. And man, it was fun growing up that way. I got my butt beat quite a bit by the boys. Makes me tough, you know.
Do you feel like that has in any way shaped or helped with a transition into a sport that isn't only male dominant, but also if you look at the female athletes, a lot of them do have a military background, police background, but you actually don't. You don't have any of that. What has the transition into the sport for you as a female in a shooting sport been like? And maybe more of outside views because I know how great the community is, but just what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I think that I mean I've always training wise I've always gotten along with guys fine. So like and trained with guys, I guess. So that part wasn't anything new to me. As far as like doing a male dominant sport as well, like coming from hockey, that's no stranger to me as well. I mean, growing up, all the like people I'd meet, especially that weren't from Michigan, because Michigan hockey is pretty possible, or sorry, pretty like normal, right? Like a lot of girls play hockey up
Very
there.
normal.
When I go to other states and say that I played ice hockey, they'd be like, "Whoa, it's wild! Like how?" Right? So for me, like I was used to that like uncommon aspect of being a girl in a guy sport a little bit more coming into tactical games. And I would say that not being like military or LEO is definitely something that crossed my mind that I was like, man, I feel like I'm really behind on some stuff. And almost a little selfish for doing this sport at times as well, because I'm like, I'm not using any of these skills in real life to do good things for the community right now. And with that said, that doesn't mean I won't ever do that with my skills. Like I'm developing my skills right now. And maybe I hope that one day it's worth it to do something with the community, you know, that takes my skills and makes it worth something more. Right now, those people that are in active military law enforcement jobs literally use the skills that they train every day for tactical games in real life. And I
Mhm.
respect that a lot. It made me feel at first like I was, like I said, being kind of selfish with investing so many hours in training in this. And I'm like, man, for what? Like just because I like to compete. Um, but I do just trust and feel that like there it will be for something more in the future. And I did find too that my perception of the opportunity that military law enforcement had to train like this was greater than reality. So I thought that all military law enforcement people were training like tactical game style stuff all the time. And I found out when I got to learn the community more that that's actually kind of really hard to do and not something that unfortunately is as common in those professions. So this sport really helps them supplement that and makes them really good for their job, but maybe is not what training looks like for every military law enforcement person out there, if that makes sense. So I felt like at first I had this huge barrier to entry that all these girls were way, way ahead of me. But because they had this experience in military and law enforcement. But I think that as a civilian, like, I am very happy that I took the chance and like just started learning how to shoot to bring myself up to a level that I feel competent even as a civilian in protecting myself and my loved ones should that ever need to happen. Hopefully not, but like if it did happen, I know I can protect myself with the weapons that I have. And for me, even as a civilian, that's still valuable. And the gap to get there really just took a lot of dry fire, which didn't even cost me anything at the range. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't that expensive.
Mhm.
Doing a ton of dry fire and then some live fire sessions, I was like, okay, like I'm not that far behind as I thought I was coming in. You know what I mean? So I respect the heck out of people that do this for a greater purpose actively right now in their jobs. And it's not my calling right now, but you know, I don't think that my skills are wasted. You know what I mean?
What do you think then some of the big misconceptions about the sport are?
Um, Misconceptions about the sport. I mean, when I came into tactical games, I felt like everyone was military law enforcement and like wore a lot of camo and black. And like
There are a lot of dark, colors in the
so
ecosystem.
funny throwback story at Ohio, my first event. I was with some friends that had helped me suit up, and I had showed up to the morning brief the day of. Everyone is in pants with tactical belts and like tucked in shirts and like long sleeves, and everyone is wearing black, green, brown camo. And I show up in my noble biker shorts and Birks with white socks and a tie-dye oversized crew sweatshirt, tie-dye, like bright tie-dye too, like light
Jenay,
pink.
why are you not wearing this stuff anymore?
Hold on. Light pink, yellow, blue, tie-dye, and a Starbucks because it was early as
Mhm.
heck. I was like, why are we getting up at 5:30 in the morning to do this? Like, let us sleep in and we can like just shoot later. I didn't understand the concept of like this schedule yet.
Yeah.
And I had a top knot, like my top knot bun that I do that's like messy or whatever. So I roll up looking like a basic B and in like all these bright colors, and I look around and I go, I am so out of place right now. But part of wrapping back to what I said earlier, like I came from CrossFit. I felt comfortable in CrossFit clothes. So I wore my noble outfit at the time. And you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like had my tactical belt on the outside. And it was jumping around, but who cares? I'm in my comfortable CrossFit gear. And I was okay with that. And that was the whole point of like, show up with what you've got. If that's what you're comfortable in, then rock it. I wasn't comfortable in freaking tactical pants at the time. Like that just wasn't my vibe. I was like, why would I wear pants? And like it's hot.
Until you roll around in the dirt and
Yeah,
stones get in your leg and knees.
right. And so you get burned by some hot rounds, and then you're like, oh, that's why.
This is
Okay.
why we wear pants.
Yeah. It just wasn't what I was confident in and like comfortable in yet. So it's so funny. I came in and was like this just so out of place girl. And there's parts of that I still retain with me. Don't get me wrong, but I go for functionality when I'm out there for the most part. But I still wear my CrossFit leggings, and I don't wear like a tactical belt that has 2 layers. It just goes over my CrossFit stuff. Still, yeah, I thought that was so funny when I first started. I was like, what is going on? Like I'm so out of place right now, but who cares? That was me. I'm showing up as me. Period. And I had a great time doing it. And no one hated me. Everyone
I Yes, and that honestly, it's so funny you say that because obviously anybody watching this who knows me, I mean, I wear a lot of bright colors, a lot of pink, a lot of lipstick. Sometimes there's sparkles. I have a sparkle fanny pack. And honestly, when I showed up, I felt like, yeah, you can definitely spot me on this range, but never at one moment did anybody make me feel like I was the new person on the block. Like my first year at nationals, that was the first event that I ever covered. And the amount of people that I asked questions to them that probably were actually dumb questions, but nobody made me feel dumb. They were very helpful
Yeah.
and really great at educating me how the sport works. And I mean, I can't speak higher about this community, and you really feel it once you get out there and do the thing.
Yeah. And that's, yep, 100%. And I love that about us. Like, whatever you've got to bring, bring it. Like, whoever you are, come be you. And you'll find your people there. Like, people will love you no matter what, even if you're wearing hot pink and sparkles. It's so cool. I still wear girly stuff when I do events, and heck, usually it's covered in dirt anyway, so you can't tell. But
Right,
there's
right.
a spot for looking feminine still in a man's dominated sport, okay? Just a little
But I
bit of
think it's
girl.
it is, and I think the women in the sport are really changing that conversation with what maybe the idea of what tactical games is, because to me, before I got involved with it as well, I thought, oh, it's going to be all military, all first responders, people who have a lot of firearm training, and the women community is going to be very small. But what I realized very quickly was that was not the case. A lot of the people involved, primarily the women involved, just enjoy shooting for sport or learn how to shoot from a significant other or a friend in a means to have that self protection. And I think that that's what makes the sport so empowering, because you have this really diverse community with all of the different members or all of the different athletes that are competing in the sport for a very personal reason, which I love.
Yep, I would totally agree with that. I'd say a lot of the females, especially, compete with confidence in their ability to defend themselves. Also, I think all of us to celebrate our freedom to do this kind of thing. And if we have the right to own and use guns, then like we should know how to do that and to protect ourselves. And for me, I didn't know how to shoot at all. Like we said, I didn't come from a like military LEO background, and my
Mhm.
family had guns growing up, and I was very comfortable around them, but I didn't have much experience in shooting anything. I had a BB gun growing up that I'd troll around with. I loved purely. It was like my baby. They used to joke and call me Annie Oakley because I'd sit in the back and hit these little pop cans. And it was so funny when I started tactical games, they were like, Jenay, you're Annie Oakley. And then I was actually like shooting guns for real. And I was like, wow, that's come full circle. But I'd shot a handgun a couple of times in my life. And I enjoyed shooting so much with my dad, but we didn't have the training in that way. And I learned how to shoot in tactical games. So for me, without that resource of a community where there are people that you can connect with that will help you find instructors or TTG training days, skirmishes, stuff like that, share content on their Instagrams, YouTube, point you in the right direction on resources that will be valuable for you. All of that really helped me learn how to shoot early on. And I was thinking about this the other day. I would have never known how to shoot or known how to go about learning how to shoot if it wasn't for tactical games. I don't know how to do that, like hire an instructor, which I said from the beginning that I didn't have money when I started really to like invest in a lot of gears, yet alone pay for an instructor. So I was so grateful to have some close friends that did have that training, um, that could point me in the right direction. And a lot of that was found within tactical games too. And even now, the people that I learned from are from the tactical games space in a lot of means. Um, and I appreciate that so much that I have a community that will help me learn from ground zero, not knowing anything, how to shoot a rifle, shoot a pistol, and not just that, but like do it with speed and with accuracy and confidence and safely, stuff like that.
So if you were queen for the day, queen of tactical games, is there something that you would change, or is there something that you would implement, or what would be the first thing that you would do to keep progressing the sport?
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question just off the top of my head because I haven't really thought through that. Um, I think that maybe having some, how do I word this, like qualifier, like more condensed matches, like
Mm.
like having a couple of elite qualifiers would be kind of cool because you could do a little bit more with less people. But I don't want that to take away from all the great things of having the big matches as well. But maybe like you can just do a lot. Like you can do a lot of events in a day, like really throw down if you had like a really like exclusive crew. Maybe that's what nationals is kind of meant to be too, I guess. I know that we have the intermediate division opened up for that as well, but like, top 20 to make it, kind of in a similar way of like at the CrossFit games where you have to qualify in the top 40 or 50 or whatever it is. As the field grows, I think over time that would be a cool thing to get to. But I don't know. That's a tough question. I haven't put a lot of thought to that outside of that. I'm not sure. Maybe we could do a Texas versus everyone match because there's a lot of athletes.
There are a lot of very good athletes that happen to live in Texas.
I'm going to recruit a few to come to move to Texas if we do that, but
okay, you can start the pre-planning for it.
Yeah, like it's how they did the invitational for CrossFit? Like
Yes.
Or actually they just did that Wadapalooza too, right? North America versus the world or whatever. Same concept.
Yep, they had the two teams. Yeah, so Texas versus the world. Speaking of Tactical Games is going international, going to Poland. Jenay, you have Polish roots. Isn't that right?
I do, yes. My family is definitely very Polish on my mom's side. They make pierogies and kielbasa and sauerkraut every holiday, like hand make the pierogies. It's very, very much a process. They'll make like 30 dozen and freeze them and then like bring them out at, different occasions. It's like an all hands on deck sort of thing. So my family would be probably overjoyed if we all made a trip out to Poland to do that. But I don't know enough about it yet. I don't know. It kind of like trips me out. I'm not sure how I would feel about traveling abroad. I hate traveling in general. I'm not a big fan of flying. So I'm just very impatient on a plane. I don't like feeling like trapped in a plane very much. So I'm not sure if I would do it. We'll see. I want to see more about it and learn more about it before I make a decision on that. That feels really far away. Have you looked into how far the plane ride is? I'm not sure what it is.
Oh my gosh, it's like 6 hours. Like 9 hours. It's not that bad. So it's not that bad. So if you take a red eye, that could be a very good option. I could sleep at a Tactical Games event if I was tired enough. And you know how loud those things are. Like I can sleep in any corner. People think that I have a military background because my hidden talent is being able to sleep anywhere. So taking a red eye isn't like bad for me. But another option is you could download a bunch of movies that you could watch. You could listen to like some books on tape. You could read. You could make to-do lists. You'll find things to do with the 9 hours.
It's to date myself. I'm just kidding. Take some NyQuil and conk out. Yeah, I don't know. I have I'm a little weary about what it could be like. Honestly, I don't know. We'll see. So it's not a no, but it's definitely not a strong yes for me yet. I need more information, need more details.
Okay. We'll see if we can convince you at nationals because I know a couple people that are already going and I'm sure Becky is one that's going and she already has her whole itinerary ready. So these are rabbit holes she's gone down and she can educate you.
You'll have to have a talk with Becky about that. Yeah. We'll talk about her itinerary. I'll see if it sounds appealing. Insert myself to her trip.
Exactly. It'll all work out. It'll be great. Knowing that last year, yeah, I plan on going. Oh yeah, an excuse to go to Poland, Jenay.
I literally have
shoot in another country. That opportunity doesn't come up that often, you know.
You're right. I also have like 3 red T-shirts with the Polish flag on it, and I have a couple that like say things, so I could just wear those every day.
You already have the uniform ready, the outfits. Yeah. Come on.
So funny.
Okay, we're gonna make it happen. We'll put a pin in that and come back to it in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Knowing that last year you won nationals, that's like the cherry on top to the end of anybody's season. Going into this year, what are those things that after you walk away from nationals, you can look back and say to yourself, that was a success, because you've already reached the pinnacle of the placement. So what are some of those other things that determine success?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it's hard. Like, you never know what's going to happen in these weekends. When I say that, I mean sometimes you get malfunctions. Maybe it's very windy in your heat, but not in other heats. You're out in elements, so there could be variability between the two. There's so much that could go wrong that it's really hard to put a very strong expectation on a finish. I think that, and also you never know who's been working their butt off and who's going to show up like a freaking rock star in ways that maybe you didn't see earlier in the season. So for me, what I think would be a success for the weekend is to show up and just give my best performance in every single one. And I have no doubt that I will make mistakes and that I will be unsatisfied with several performances along the way. But I think if I can walk away being like, that was the best that I had with the knowledge that I had before I did it, that I can't be upset with the finish at the end. And I think a lot of that is a mental game. So obviously you have to execute. You got to shoot well. You got to do the fitness as you can. But so much of what we do is mental. Even the act of shooting has to be incredibly focused. I remember my first nationals, I got done with the weekend and was like, my body feels fine, maybe bruised, but like my muscles weren't sore, like a CrossFit competition weekend. I was like, my mind is so tired because you have to be so engaged with what you're doing the entire time, super focused on pulling good shots and then remembering the sequences to sometimes the fitness is different each round. And then you're shooting out at different ports in the VTAC and you're alternating right and left hand. And like, you got to remember this, how the stage is going to run. And then you have the 2-gun stages where you have a stage plan that's like, which for me is a new thing. I'm sure people coming from like 3-gun style stuff are like, whatever. But for me, it was hard. Okay. So like remembering my stage plan that I ran literally like 100 times in my head before, and all of it is just very mentally taxing. And when you're mentally tired, cracks in your foundation can really let weakness shine through. So for me, trying to have a very strong mentality through the weekend is really important so that I can put on a focused, calm, confident performance every time. Because if I get too mentally overstretched, too stressed, stuff like that, then cracks in that, like I said, can bring weaknesses through, and then you're playing your own worst enemy. If you're focused on, oh shoot, I'm not good enough, I'm not going fast enough when you're shooting at the line, like you're gonna miss. So I think staying like mentally resilient and strong and confident, and then executing the best that I can with what I've got at the time will make me feel happy at the end of the weekend. I have some friends and family coming out to watch me. So I think getting to enjoy that with them is important to me when I'm off the competition floor as well. I mean, they're traveling a long ways to be a part of this with me, and it means a lot that like they care enough to come all the way down here to just cheer me on. And then also we have Jared owns a gym, Rattler CrossFit, just right here in town. It's literally so close to the range, and I coach there so much. Like I live at the gym. So all of our members are so excited for our little crew at Rattler that's competing. And I'm so excited to have them out there and share this with them because so many of them have never experienced it. So I think like just being surrounded by community and being able to, like I said, be fierce when I'm competing and then flip it off when I step off that floor and be like, dang, this is really cool that all my people are here and we get to enjoy this cool thing together. And like, I can encourage them that like, hey, you should own a firearm. You should learn how to shoot it. You can do that even though you don't know anything yet. You know what I mean? I think that will be really enjoyable. We have a handful of athletes from Rattler that are competing that weekend at nationals. So I'm really excited for our crew to just be out there together. It'll be awesome.
Jenay, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see you in person. And thank you for just taking the time to sit down, let everybody get to know you better, your background, and just how amazing you are when you're competing at tactical games. This girl, she's real, guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's always a fun time getting to chat with you.
Yeah, we always have so much fun. We could talk for like 5 more hours, but at this point, I think you said you have more training to get to today?
Yes, I do. More training. Gotta go hit the class workout tonight. We've been doing that a lot. I really enjoy hopping in with our 6:30 p.m. So, yeah, I've been doing that with Jake at night, and it kicks my butt. It's good. Do the class workout. It's still hard.
Just what you need. Well,
Right?
Jenay, thank you again, and I will see you in Texas.
Can't wait. We'll see you then. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah.